Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Canyon, and welcome back to we're going to get to it. We're going to get to it, but we've got to, like, if you've been here before, you know, thumbnails get illustrated. Thumbnails get composed last. They're the last thing that gets done. So, this is a place. This is the Crawler Canyon. We do two series. We do quick views and we do junk views. And the quick view is restricted, not restricted, is primarily composed of name brand products. If we test something from a big name, or alternately, if it's just expensive, yes, there's expensive junk, but junk views, quick views over here, junk views over here, junk views tend to talk about Amazon products, AliExpress products, and that's where things inevitably get hazy. Because today we're talking about radios, and it's probably in the thumbnail. We're talking about radios, and by some small extension, speed controls, let's just say electronics. The quick view, junk view line is very, very hazy. For those familiar, for those you already know, and for those unfamiliar, the Canyon is a place of one rig, one radio, because we've got too many. It would seem insane to, all of a sudden now we're going to take this radio and share it between 8 rigs, when there's 5 garages filled with vehicles in the Canyon, and every rig has a radio. So this radio in particular, this is the radio that got into my head when I was like, well, this is a junk view, because we're doing a junk view on a radio, because the radio was $30. Right? Our expectations are acceptably low for a $30 radio. So I can't say that radio is junk simply because it comes from Amazon and it costs $30. Is it fair to junk view it when this is a RadioLink RC4GS, not the topic of this video, but I would say probably the Canyon favorite radio. It's 5 channels. It has all programmable buttons. It has built-in cruise control. You can use it for 4-wheel steer. You can do all these things, and they're about $65, which means not in the realm of things that are crazy. Also, in the Canyon currently, I did a rough count. It might be off. There are 37 radios in here. 37 seems like a lot I would say any normal person. I mean, we can soften that up by saying there are 275 tires in here. So, 37 radios doesn't seem like so much. The RC4, and by extension the RC6, are certainly the bulk of the Canyon fleet. There are 37 radios, as I said. 10 of them are not RadioLinks. So 27 of 37 are either RC4s and RC6s, and by a wide, I think we have 4 of these. So there are 23 RC4s in service. If they weren't good, I wouldn't buy them, and I certainly wouldn't recommend them. The RC4 is the radio that I will recommend to anyone at any time. It works for anything. It has way more features than it should at its price point. If they would just, RadioLink, I'm talking to you directly, if they would just make an RC4GC crawler version, give me 2 steering wheels, put the antenna on the inside, I will not stop talking about them. But the others are made up of what I like to call weird little radios. The HOTRC CT-1 is a weird little radio. It has 8 channels. The buttons are not reconfigurable. Some of them are 2-position. Some of them are 3-position. It has a bunch of lights on it. The steering wheel is a little oversprung. It's very small. It's very, very small. I don't know if my giant hand's really... Well, yeah. My giant hand does give you an indication of how small the radio is. It runs on a single 18650 battery, which is fantastic. Its power draw is not very great, so that 18650 will run for weeks. It is chargeable from inside. You just plug it into a USB-C and it charges. These cost about $50. The lights are apocalyptically bright, like at night. These lights are blinding. They change colors when you cycle through the functions. It does all kinds of neat little things. Oh, this one's a momentary. The non-configurability of the buttons and a screen that is the size of a postage stamp, readable only at very close distances, and like my hand doesn't actually technically fit. Nevertheless, we have 2 of these in service in the fleet because I don't find anything particularly negative about that radio. It's just that at $50, for $15 more, I'll just get one of these. Hot RC makes this. I think it's like the RS4, DP4, some weird little name. It sadly does not run on a single 18650. It's 4 AA's. I would love it if it ran on a single 18650. I don't believe that this controller is specifically for cars. I think it's for boats. The single drawback about this radio is that this, to go into reverse, the actual throw, the trigger is like a 70-30 trigger. So you have 70% throw for forward and about 30% throw for reverse. So reverse can come on you really quick. But it is a 4-channel radio. It has built-in cruise control. So if you need to do something like shift a 2-speed, it's great. And it's fun to play tricks on people. If you have a trail rig that, say, just has a 2-speed in it, it's fantastic. Because you take this radio and literally you put it in the pocket of your hoodie or something and you're just standing there talking to somebody and your rig is just driving around. It is far more intuitive than I thought it would be. I bought it on a lark because it was about $20 on Amazon. I think they're routinely $20 to $25. It works far better than it should. It has EPA for all the channels after a fashion. The programming is not super intuitive, but it is still running on the same set of AA batteries that it came with. And I think it's a fantastic radio for a trail rig or something because it's a little oddity. This is an odd little radio. This is a very odd little radio. So I do just random searches every once in a while, Amazon, AliExpress, and I was looking at radios, and Hot RC has decided to, sorry fellas, Hot RC has decided to throw their hat into the ring and go into where the sharks are, into the deep water. If you've got a pistol grip radio, competition is really high. And the bar for that competition is set extraordinarily high by this. It has good trigger feel. It has good wheel feel. It does all the things. I would say most of the rigs in here are, 2-channel, then 3-channel, then we've got 4-channel. Going above 4-channel, there's a reason that we only have 4 or 5 of these. Because I don't need all these channels most of the time. And I'm not going to outfit a rig with a radio that has 7 channels just because I can. So this is the Hot RC CT6A, which is a pistol grip radio, which is what we are all familiar with. It is pretty small. Well, I just gave away our size comparison. The RC4 is not small. You can see it's probably about 70% of the size. It had some little factors and features listed in the Amazon description that got me to the point where I said, this is something that we'll try. We've got a 3-position here. And lo and behold, look at this. I can operate it. I can operate that with both fingers. I don't know if it's momentary, and I don't know if it's changeable. I just opened that box. I've not taken this out of the box. The receiver is, let's say, not small, but also not large. You'll notice a little extra wire here. So it has battery voltage for your rig battery, and that will show on this little very basic display here. Channel 5, Channel 6, Channel SWB, SWA. Them being called SWB and SWA at least lead me to believe that they are configurable. And you may have also noticed, this was one of the things. It said one-handed control. So it's just got it built in. I don't know why we're not seeing this from literally everyone. Crawler radios, yeah. We've got a lanyard hook. I mean, we know we don't need this. I think they just do it for form factor. It's got the sit down. It's got the fake carbon fiber. The grip feels pretty good. It's very light, as I mentioned. One of the big selling ones for me was 4 AA's. Nah, we don't. I'm on the goal to purge the whole fleet of AA batteries up here in the handle. This is the future that I want. Will it work with both batteries connected at the same time? I don't know. I can't read that. Clearly, chargeable with the battery installed. Did I put the battery in upside down? I think I did. Oh! Hey, look at this. So the transmitter is at 3.9 volts, which is a single 18650. The receiver doesn't have anything on it because we haven't hooked it up. I'm not 100% sure. I'm guessing that these are much like channel 5 and 6 on a FlySky GT5. I have not even cracked this open. It is I enjoy particularly that like it's not even an American version. Like we've just got the full. Yeah, this is how you go. This radio is $30, and that $30 range seems to be, honestly, it seems to be like where we're talking about stuff getting really competitive. The stuff from Dumbo RC. There's a lot of radios out there in that $30 range, but typically you're not going to get any kind of digital control. It's just going to be pots. There's a place for pots, but if this thing can do any sort of endpoint adjustment, and I'm going to do due diligence now where I'm going to pull this chair out. There's a radio I have in mind in the fleet that so you don't even need to run the bottom. I do wonder. What is it? 6? Oh, yeah. Okay. 4 to 9 volts DC. 4 AA's in here would be, well, you know what? Hey. No. We're not going to blow the radio up at the beginning of the Junkview / Quick View. The Quick Junk. The Junk Quick. I'm going to leaf through this. I've said I'm not a big fan of cuts. But if this thing will work with both, that seems wild. But it says it can do 9 volts, and 4 AA's and an 18650 is 9 volts. Well, it's 9.2. I don't know. I'm going to read through it. I have a rig in mind for this. I have not, and this is honest. This is the absolute full transparency here. I haven't picked the rig to test this on yet. I kind of want to test it on something that uses sounds like one of those old Coleco handheld, like we're playing video football. I don't know what I want to test this on. I don't know what this means. I'm assuming this is some sort of mix, but this is just a forward arrow and a backward arrow. I don't know what any of the buttons do yet. So we're going to try to blunder into it a little bit less. Knowing and stating clearly that a $30 radio has got to be, I guess, just pretty special for me to warrant recommending a $30 radio. I'm not just going to say, oh yeah, you should get this because it's an economical option, because continually and forever looming over its head is that. Which, in terms of radios, $65 is an economical option. 5 channels. This one claims 6. We will see. We are going to see. I am going to... Oh, please. I didn't even check to see if there's an English side. This is not it. Okay. Oh. Bing. Okay, so the receiver's not bound yet. All right. Rudder setting, hybrid control. The remote control can use 3 types of batteries. 2S lithium batteries, 18650s. It doesn't, do not use lithium batteries with a voltage higher than 2S. Okay. Well, that kind of says it right there. I probably not recommended to use both of the batteries at once because that would definitely exceed 2S voltage. I'm gonna figure out what radio to put it in. I'm gonna figure out how difficult it is to program it, and then we're gonna see. Okay. We're gonna pick somebody with 3 channels, and we will try. So somebody with dig. We're gonna pick somebody with an easy to access receiver so that this isn't difficult to swap in or out. And I think I want to go with a dig guy instead of a 2-speed guy because I want to see it. I don't see any mention of switch configuration. We're going to find out. Let's hope it's not like mentally melting to try to program it. I mean, you'll never know. I mean, I'll tell you, but it's going to happen in the ether space. So I will be back in. All right. So for you, it has been a second. For me, it has been a not insignificant amount of time, about 30 minutes, I would say. Okay. I put a decent amount of weight onto the intuitive nature of something. And we're failing on some tests here. Basically what it comes down to is this. You can put yourself into old people mode with this because the way you make setting changes is you hold the unit is off, you switch the transmitter off, you hold down either what they call the hybrid setting or the reverse setting, and then you press power and it puts you into one of the setting modes. So I did indeed get dig to operate. The method of endpoint adjustment, or as this one calls it, rudder function setting, you go into this hybrid mode, and then each time you press the button affiliated with that channel, it will move it in steps, like 10% steps. So I think I'm at 40% total throw on the dig, which is not perfect, but it's very close. And getting it to store the setting, I had, unbeknownst to me, you can make a little lock button come up on the controller. I don't know why you would do that. I accidentally pressed a combination of buttons while in programming mode and locked the thing. And then when you do that, you have no steering, you have no throttle, you have no nothing. And I was like, I genuinely don't know what I've done. I've done something, but I don't know what it is. So I had to start over again. And I don't blame that on myself. I have not regressed into a full Luddite yet. It's not intuitive. Then I'm reading through the very Spartan manual. I mean, honestly, this is the entirety of the manual. And part of it is battery usage, and part of it is programming the receiver. So, figuring out what buttons do what, they could do better. It was honestly easier to program this, which has no display, and I don't know why I didn't think of it. So this one says stutter and thump. So throttle maximum point, and they call it, I mean, it is effectively dual rate. So it didn't click in my head that that's what these little knobs are. I thought that they were, foolishly, I thought those might be affiliated with channels 5 and 6. They are not. We can do this. And then if we do it, what am I at? I'm about just over 50. If I do it all the way down. You can turn your steering off. Here's our throttle. We can turn our throttle off. So again, is this a pistol grip for a boat? I mean, calibrates just fine. Trigger feels good. I'm going to... It's not really... Okay, there's a resolution problem. You hear the if I turn it, oh yeah, see the endpoint is, yeah. So if your endpoint adjustment, it just does it as dual rate. It doesn't do it as EPA. So if you're setting, and this is a lay down servo, so it's not. Most lay down servos, because the horn is not dead center in the middle of the vehicle, you'll have more endpoint on one end than the other. It's usually about 15% off to one side or the other. So we have too much throw this way and not enough throw this way. This is a problem because, and I don't know how much I can blame the Hot RC radio, because it does say channel 3, 4, 5, 6 rudder setting. Where's the rudder? Right in the middle of the boat. So, I mean, this guy got chosen because I didn't even take his receiver out. We just put the Hot RC receiver right on top of his receiver, plugged the controls in. The buttons are not assignable. They say switch A, switch B. They should just say the channel that they are. You can't move anything around. So what it's really going to come down to is the feel of it. I think there's, between the two, I'm already, like, this one is you should try one of these things. It's kind of fun. This already, without a wheel test, is, I just wouldn't. I just wouldn't. The inability to set individual endpoints, like, we can set the channel 3, 4, 5, 6 endpoints, but in like 10% increments, and that is enough. That's not enough resolution. Also, we get that, like, I can hear the servo notching. This feels okay, but I want to do a quick-ish. I got body clips out, didn't I? I feel like I did. I want to get a spin out and see how it feels. I swore I got body clips. I think the conclusion is foregone. It's not for me. I'm not going to say that I'm spoiled by the ability to set endpoints, because, like, what are we talking about? This is what we're talking about. This is presumably a radio from 2021, 2022, 2023, somewhere around current times. This is an Airtronics CS2P, which is the FM version of the Airtronics XL2P, 27 megahertz FM. It's got the big, like, this is the transmitter module. There's the crystal. This radio is in its mid-30s. It has a little tool that attaches up here that I can't believe I haven't lost in all of those passing years with a little screwdriver, because over here under this little door, if we can get in there, steering endpoint left, steering endpoint right, steering expo, and then all the same for the throttle. It is a straight up 2-channel radio. It does 2 channels. It's got a wonderful little analog display. You can't set it down. They didn't, like, you have to lay it down like that. That's the only way to set it down. The steering wheel feels great. The trigger. You pull the trigger on any modern radio, and then you pull the trigger on this. It's got a little bit of rubber on there for feel going the other way. They do not make them like they used to. Here's throttle trim. Here's throttle expo, right in big knobs. Here's steering trim. Here's steering dual rate. We're not moving forward. This thing does have an antenna long enough to poke someone's eye out. It's like around a meter long. But even with this, oh, also, by the way, there's a dual rate button up here that you actuate with your thumb. You see that guy up in there? They just thought things out better. Like, we're not, this is not forward movement. I wanted to love this I wanted to use, I had a rig in mind for this. I love the implementation of a single 18650 to run a radio. That's why these have a home in the fleet. They run on a single 18650, and that's brilliant. You just plug it in, and that single 18650 will run it for weeks. Meanwhile, I've had to convert every single one of these over to run on what? You got it. 18650s. I can't keep 100 and I think the whole fleet is something like 158 AA batteries. It's 158 or 172. I'm getting the numbers confused. So if I'm presented with a radio with the opportunity to just use 18650 batteries, I'm like, yes, let's do this. But no. I mean, but time with it in my hand testing it is going to really determine, is it a soft no or is it a hard no? And we can only find out the answer to that outside. The Colonel has a spider carcass on his hinder there. Okay, so maybe he hasn't been driven in a little while. It's going to be nice for him to get outside. The whole thing is melting, is congealing into what I would consider to be a damn shame, because the trigger feel and there are two aspects of trigger feel. We have the physical trigger. How does it feel to insert your finger in the trigger? It's a little snug. For many people, it might not be. And then you have the trigger feel, which is the responsiveness to being pressed with thy finger. They are both pretty good. A little bit better than what we get on most OEs, right? Like not bad at all. This feels acceptably okay. Now we of course have buttons that are not configurable or programmable. There is a little bit too much spring tension on the trigger. You could get, if you do this long enough, ladies and gentlemen, you could actually get some trigger fatigue. And I have also noticed not big hand friendly. If you can't buy gloves somewhere, and it not big hand friendly in the usual way, unfriendly, which is like this, great. See where my finger is? I've got to pop the finger way out here. I find myself holding this radio like this to be able to get the trigger feel that I want on it. There's quite a bit of spring tension on the trigger, and because of the angle I have to hold my finger at, I feel like I'm basically fighting the mechanics of the trigger to press it. The steering similarly feels a little bit oversprung, but at that point, that's a very middling, tiny concern here. We have other problems. The edges, particularly this edge right here, if we're going to get deep into the ergonomics, this edge right here is too sharp, because you will hit against it when using the thumb actuator here, and the edges on the thumb actuator are a little too sharp as well. So when you're going this way, you kind of double hit it. It doesn't feel good. Also, I think most strikingly, this right here, that's way too sharp. This is a fundamental failure of industrial design, where like the human body has no 90-degree angles, basically. We are not built on sharp edges. So making something easily and comfortably manipulable with 90-degree angles is problematic. And I know for a lot of people, setting dig is, you can do it with a switch or you can do it with a button, meaning you can do it as this dig is on, dig is off. I'm a momentary dig guy. I want to hold the button down. So okay, let's boil it down. That is a deal breaker. I will move that radio out of service for that. The lock switch, that's for 2 speeds. So if you're hooking this up for a 2-speed, that would be fine. But The dual rate was strike one. The non-intuitiveness of the programming I would regard as strike two. And then the just overall lack of ergonomic feel. The wheel feels good. This, I mean, like the physical, the foam, that's better foam than we get on most radios. It really is. This guy works. The placement of it is good. The wheel and the parts associated with the wheel, great. This body with these hard, sharp edges, I just couldn't. I could not. And it is a damn shame because the placement of that button is good. The placement of this 3-position switch is good. It uses an 18650 or AA's, so you've got backup power. It has a lot of nice things, but the bad things shine too brightly. It's a bummer. It is a proper bummer, man. The control, like that granularity, lack of fidelity that I felt on the bench, I don't feel it as much on the rocks. Both in steering and in throttle, I can feel I can feel the steps. Every potentiometer, whatever the trigger is hooked up to, whatever the steering wheel is hooked up to, every potentiometer has basically analog positions on it. So in that circle, for this throw, that pot will have a number of points. And the more money you spend, the more points you're going to get. I can feel the points in the steering here. I can still feel them on the rocks. It was really noticeable on the bench. And the control it's good. It is preferable in all situations for something to just be objectively terrible. This is not objectively terrible. If this were an OE radio that came with your RC, oh my God, let's look at it through, let's switch over to that lens and look at it through that. Compare this to the G4P that comes on RTR Elements, or compare it to anything that comes with anything from Spectrum. Even with the failures of industrial design, this is better. The fidelity is higher. The ability to use it with one hand is absolutely there. I understand that in industrial design, you have to design things for a populace and not an individual. So it doesn't fit my hand that well. I think that there are folks who might not notice it. Maybe if your fingers are real slender. Do you have really slender fingers? You might be okay. But not I, says I swear, by society standards, apparently a giant. Can't buy gloves, can't buy shoes, can't buy socks, can't buy long sleeve shirts. And in many cases, apparently, can't buy toy car radios. I have been using this with one hand almost exclusively because genuinely, aside from moments where, and this will be the last time I invade the camera space, when I do this, I hit right there. And I don't like it. It's a sharp edge. If it was a rounded edge, I smell paint. If it was a rounded edge, I might not notice it. But right there, I can't, that's too far of a reach. So I want to ergonomic, boink, boink, boink. It's not for me, and I think confident enough in my statement that it's not for me that I can't recommend it. It's not, and here's the thing, this radio, in Canyon terms, and those of you who are familiar with the channel will know what I mean when I say this. This radio is a solid 7 out of 10. It costs half as much as a Radiolink RC4GS. And it's not worth half as much as an RC4GS. If you got this radio for free, I would say you have no real reason to run out and replace it. It could be lived with. But I would not buy this. And I think that's... faint praise is damning. And 7 out of 10. Life is too short for 7 out of 10. This radio is a tire that has just almost enough grip. This radio is a speed control that has just almost enough drag brake. Do you understand what I'm saying? Is the analogy I'm putting down something you can pick up? It's so close that it's more angering than if it was just bad. And that is genuinely a shame. It's very light. It is very light, and the feel in the hand is pretty good until you get to the sharp edges. I am now also feeling, I know I said last time, but the edges down here are very sharp too. And when your hand drags against the edge of it, it's just not comfortable. It doesn't feel good. And why should we put ourselves through that? So I had hoped for more, as I am a fan of the little weird 4-channel aircraft pistol grip. But this is not the guy. This is not the guy. If you want to buy yourself a weird little radio for 30 bucks, get the little pistol grip one. I still think that thing is fun on a bun. I have it set up on a 2-speed rig, and it shifts it flawlessly. This thing is not the guy. Is it bad? No. It does the things. But it's a 7 out of 10, and that is something we cannot abide. So I thank you so much for stopping by this one. And still, even at this point, after all the things I've said that are objectively negative, I feel like I still feel like calling it a Junkview is unduly harsh. Because junk is tongue-in-cheek. When we do a junk view of an Amazon product, we call it junk because you get it off Amazon. Its name is a jumble of consonants, and it's not maybe up to the quality. The quality of this feels fine. It's just not there. It's just not there. Oh, perhaps the most accurate analogy that I can offer. We take another radio. Let's say, I mean, sure, the RC4 is perhaps out of the price point of this. It costs twice as much. But if we look at this radio versus that radio, the RC4GS is a J-Concepts rupture, and this is a fake AliExpress clone rupture. It's got all the things. It's got the buttons. It makes noises. But it's not the thing. Sort of looks like the thing, but it's not the thing. The RC4GS is the best radio on Amazon, and no one is coming to unseat it yet. Certainly not this guy. If I was putting this up against an FlySky GT5, it's the GT5, but the GT5 costs 2.5 times what this costs. I think we're squeezing the pennies a little too hard at this point. Not recommended. For all the reasons that I had just talked about. Oh, what a low note to end on, man. It's a bummer. I want everything to be good, but that's not truth. That's not the world in which we live. So much, the super extended Midwest outro. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Like, subscribe, etc. The only thing important need to be said at the end of these episodes is I want you, one and all, to do your very best in between now and the time when we meet again. To have a good one, everybody. We'll see you in the next one, and we will hope, as always, foolhardily for better things.